Now, once you've got your license file applied to your library, you can then start to create user groups and then named users that plan on logging into the authored application. All right, and you'll do that from the security menu. So let's go ahead and set up a group and some users now. I'm going to go here to User and Group Accounts. All right, and what I want to do is first create groups and then create users, okay? You'll want to do things in that order when you're first starting out with AuthorIt. So let's go here to Groups. All right. Now in this drop-down list are all of the groups that have come with your student libraries. In a brand new library, the only group you're going to see is the admin group, because this is the group that the supervisor user belongs to. So if you need any other groups besides admins, then you'll want to create them. So let's go ahead and click New. I'm going to create a new group for my executive leadership that are interested in finding out what I've been doing inside of AuthorIt. So we'll go ahead and create a group here called Executive and click OK. All right, and let's go over to Users now. All right, so I've got a group set up, so now I can create users that belong to that executive group. Now over here in my user list, these are all of the users that again come with your student library. The only user you're going to see is supervisor at first. You'll want to go ahead and create users here. All right, so let's create a user called Eddie Zek. Eddie Zek belongs to the executive team. Go ahead and click OK here. So Eddie has been added. So now what I need to do is assign him to a group. So I'm going to select the executive group and click Add. And then I'll click Apply. All right. Now one user can belong to multiple groups. All right. That is not a problem. Let's say that Eddie is an executive user, but for some reason he's also a backup administrator. So perhaps you would want to assign him to the admin group as well. Well, you could do that. And the security rights associated with both of those groups would combine into one. All right. We don't want Eddie to be an admin user, so I'll actually select that group name and hit Remove. And we'll click Apply again. All right, so I've got my group set up here. I do have my user set up here, and I click OK. All right. Now, once you've got some groups and users set up, the next thing you'll want to do, create the security model for those groups and users. All right. Now, to do that, we would go to something called Folder Action Permissions. All right. Go ahead and select Folder Action Permissions here. And you may want to avert your eyes for a moment because this is a rather busy window. You're going to hit Maximize. Oh, okay. This is our security matrix for the library. It looks a little busy, but it actually makes a lot of sense if you start looking at it. All right, now what we have here are all of the folders listed for this library, if there were any set up already. And then here are all of the security rights associated with those folders, okay? Now, what's going on here is that when you assign security to a user or group, you are actually controlling what that user or group is allowed to do inside of each folder. Okay, so you are granting or restricting access to perform tasks within a folder. All right, so Our best practice is to assign security at the group level. You can assign security to individual users. It would require a lot of maintenance for you in the long run. Now up here we can toggle between users and groups. Alright. Now the difference here, see how this is blue? Now whenever you see blue and author it, think of inheritance, okay? These checkboxes have been inherited by this user from the group that they belong to, okay? You can't change inherited properties. I can click in here, but I can't change any of these checkboxes because they've been inherited from that user's group, okay? By default, supervisor belongs to that admin group. You cannot delete these items from author. Now if I toggle between different groups in the library, you'll see that the options change. Each group performs a different function inside of the author library, so they may have security set up in a different manner. Alright, now let's go over to our new group, the executive group. Executive group is not going to have any checkboxes selected here because they are a brand new group in this case. Alright, so let's take a look at the security rights that are available to us. Now you kind of have to tilt your head a little to the left and read vertically, unfortunately, but what's going on here is that you are seeing a security right for each type of object in the library. The security right has to do with creating that type of object. And then next to creating that type of object is creating a template for that same object. So starting off here, we've got create book object, create book template, create file object, create file object template, and so on through the list of all of the object types in the library. Alright. Now remember that templates should really only be set up in our standards directory here. Alright, so you wouldn't want to go through and start enabling checkboxes for templates unless you are in the standards area. Alright, so what we're going to do to apply security rights is skip over every other checkbox so that we're skipping the checkboxes that have to do with templates unless we're talking about the standards folder. Alright, so these are the security rights for creating objects and their associated templates. Over here are some actions that can be performed inside of that folder. List objects, meaning you can see the folder and you can see the objects in that folder. If you did not have list rights to a folder, you would not even know that folder was in the library. You wouldn't see that folder in the list here. You wouldn't see that folder or the objects in that folder. When you did a search, you wouldn't see those objects in your search results. So by keeping this checkbox disabled, you're actually hiding the folder and its entire contents from a user. Read objects means you can open the object up and view it, publish it, modify it, delete it, change its release date, change the version, meaning using version control, change permissions assigned to the folder, and modify the folder, meaning you can rename it and you can also create subfolders underneath that folder. Alright, so let's say at least at a high level, I want my executive group to be able to see all of the folders and the objects in the library. Well, a very quick way to give them that option, instead of ticking every single checkbox, is to give them list, read, and publish rights. Now notice here, if I enable publish, it automatically enables list and read because these two are dependent on being able to publish. You can't publish something if you don't see it, right? So if you select publish, it will also enable list and read. All right. Now notice over here, this is a top level node, and then we've got these child folders underneath it. So if I right click here and say apply to subfolders, I've now enabled all of those security rights for every single folder in the library. Okay? We want to shortcut wherever possible when we're setting up security rights so that you're not sitting here hour upon hour enabling checkboxes. So again, that was right click, apply to subfolders, and that populated those same security rights to every single folder in the library. Alright, so we've got here list, read, and publish. So that means the executive group can at least see the content and publish it inside of my library. Now, let's also give some specific folder permissions to the executive group. What I want to do here, I'm going to create a new folder for my library by right-clicking, selecting Create New Folder. Yes, I want to save permissions. I want to create it within this top-level list here, and I'm just going to call this the Executive Team folder, and click OK. Alright, so here's my folder now. It has alphabetized that folder. And notice how it inherited the security rights of its parent. Okay, so subfolders will inherit the security rights of the parent. Let's go ahead and create another subfolder. Let's say that the executive team creates presentations and they create reports. Okay. And again, notice how the subfolders have inherited the security rights of the parent. Alright, now let's say that the executive team is allowed to create objects inside of their folders. So what we'll do here is enable every other checkbox, and that will enable my executive team to create the objects that they need to. Alright. And almost there. Alright, now let's also say they are allowed to modify their objects, delete them, change their release date. Maybe they're not allowed to use version control, so we'll skip that. They're not allowed to change permissions on the folders, but they can create some additional subfolders, so we will grant them the Modify Folders option. Alright, so these are the security rights that I want to assign to the executive team directory. So let me go ahead and right click over here and also select Apply to Subfolders, and that will populate all of those subfolders now as well. Alright, Apply to Subfolders is a beautiful thing. When you right click, you may also notice you have a check row or uncheck row option. You also have a check column, uncheck column option if you are right clicking at a column. Alright, so a very quick way for you to check an entire column or check an entire row or vice versa. Alright, again, we like to shortcut wherever possible. Alright, so let's go ahead and click OK here. Now I'll hit refresh to make sure that those changes have hit the database.